morning, whenever you're watching this. Welcome to Inner Light. I'm Amy Steinberg. I'm so happy to be with you. Thought I'd open today with a song of mine called Shine, Be Glorious. Shine, be glorious. Reflect the divine. Shine, be glorious. Reflect the divine. Spirit of mine, Spirit divine, let me shine your light. I open my heart, even in the dark. The light of my God always shines bright, even in the night. Come on. Shine, be glorious. Reflect the divine. Shine, be glorious. Reflect the divine. Spirit of mine, Spirit divine, let me shine your light. Let me be a vessel. Let me be a vessel. Let me be a vessel of love. I open my heart this miracle day. The love of my God gives me it all the good I can take. Hey, shine, be glorious. Reflect the divine. Shine, be glorious. Reflect the divine. Spirit of mine, Spirit divine, let me shine your light. Oh, let me be a vessel, yeah. Let me be a vessel, let me be a vessel of love. Let me be a vessel. I am just a vessel. I am a vessel of love. Shine, be glorious. Reflect the divine. Shine, be glorious. Reflect the divine. Spirit of mine, Spirit divine, let me shine your light. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's Amy Steinberg bringing us a beautiful musical invocation. We just breathed that in. As she said, good day, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is that you're tuning into this, I say welcome. Welcome to Inner Light Ministries. Welcome to this opportunity to celebrate this thing called life, to remember who we are. Just breathe that in for a moment. To remember who we are. To pause, to get off of automatic pilot. We pause in this moment to consecrate it. To consecrate is to put something aside. Not in the sense of a divisive separation, but to consecrate is you put it aside for a holy purpose. You put it aside for a holy purpose. This moment right now is our Sabbath. However, your Sabbath isn't a day of the week. It's not on the calendar. It's not on the clock. I encourage you to, throughout the day, to think of that day as a Sabbath, that something holy is going on, that where you stand is holy ground, not because it's some edifice or some sanctuary someplace, but because you're there, because you're a spiritual being, and the other spiritual beings that are with you are there. Can you imagine for a moment how different your life would be if you thought of every place that you are as holy? Wow. How different would it be if you thought of every single person that you encountered as holy? From the enemy to your family member, to the ones that you know, to the new person that you're meeting on the street. What a difference it would make. It would change you. It would change how you show up. I say all the time that it's the same spiritual principles. They're not different principles for the micro or the macro, for the large, the small. There's no such thing. In the eyes of the divine, all of that's relative. Even for us as human beings, it's relative. Big, small, tall, short, heavy, light. In comparison to what? In comparison to what? None of those descriptive terms are absolute. They're not. So don't think of yourself in these terms as some absolute. No, you're more than that. Every spiritual tradition tells you in some way, shape, or form, do not judge by the appearances. Don't do it. It's Maya. It's illusion. However it is that they are describing it, they're reminding you that there is a reality that's back behind what you see. I'm not asking you to ignore what you see. I'm asking you to pierce through what you see. Pierce through it. Don't give it the last word. There's something behind it. I'm not asking you to just pretend like the illness isn't there. I'm asking you, don't give it the last word. What I'm asking you to do is to pierce through it and call forth the underlying help. The help's not out there. You can't buy it. You can't borrow it. You can't manufacture it. The very body that appears to be ill and sick or injured is the very body that the health is going to come through. Where is the health when the body's injured? It's there. It's still there. But if all we can see is injury, if all we can see is illness, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss it. Just like the pieces in the eye of the storm, your answers are in the middle of the so-called problem. A lot of times, even what you're labeling as the problem might be the answer itself. Take a breath. Every week, we offer 100 words. 100 words to recalibrate you. 100 words to help you shift your perceptions to see differently. 100 words to plant new seeds in your consciousness that can germinate into fruit of prosperity and wholeness, creativity, unleashing all of the things that you already are by nature. these 100 words will shift you. They'll shift you. Not that there's something magical, like being sprinkled on you and something magical is going to happen. It just will help dislodge you from falsehoods. It'll help dislodge you from narratives and ideas that are keeping us playing too small and not realizing our divinity. Our topic today is spirituality as identity, not activity. Spirituality as identity, not activity. The affirmative actions for the day are going to appear on the screen, and I invite you to say them with me. My primary identity is that of being a spiritual being. Spirituality is not something I do, it is my truth. I don't become spiritual. I'm spiritual by nature. Knowing this, I stand on higher ground. I no longer chase after people, places, and things to validate me. My essence draws to me all that I need. Vibrating on more elevated frequencies, I manifest their equivalents. Nothing from the outer can define or deter me. The inner cannot be altered or erased. Daily, I challenge my own false beliefs about myself. I have the courage to unshackle my greater yet to be. I invite you to just breathe that in. Breathe that in. And I invite Amy to come back and give us another musical offering to help cultivate our consciousness for the message.
I love you. I picked this song today because it's one we all know, but I just love it. And it's right there at the first lyric of this song. It's right there. In this moment, not that moment, not out, not around this one, not the in this moment. This is like my favorite start of a song ever. Okay, I'm gonna sing the song now. In this moment, yeah, in this place, right here, I remember who I am. That's right. Letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes to see there is only love. There is only love, love that heals, love that sets us free. Yeah, there is only love, and when I lose myself, it happens. And when when it seems I've lost my way. I just go inside and quiet my mind. And I can hear Spirit gently say, see with me if you know it, there is only love. That's right. There is only love. Love that heals. Love that heals. Love that sets us free. There is only love. One more time, sing it with me. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals. Love that sets us free. There is only love. Oh, it's a love that heals, a love that sets us free. There is only love. 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 The song is written by Michael Gott and Karen Drucker. I just like to do the chorus one more time. Sing it with me. There's only love. There is only love. Believe it. Say it with me. There is only love. Love that heals. Love that heals. Love that sets us free. There is only love.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. And of course, you would choose that song. It's such a beautiful song. And wow, that song has worked me. In fact, when one of the songwriters, Karen Drucker, was with me at my center, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 years ago, I had to confess to her. I said, I hated that song. I said, there's only love. I said, I hated that song. It was one of the congregational songs at Inner Light and something that the choir would sing all the time at rehearsals. And I was just in so much pain at that particular time and so much agony 10, 12 years ago. I said, I didn't want to hear it. I said, I just didn't want to hear it. And yet I'm so grateful for it because I know that it's true, that there's only love. And that the truth of that is part of where I'm standing today. And the truth of that influences my talk today. My talk today is about spirituality as identity, not activity. Spirituality is identity, not activity. That is, in essence, what the song is saying about there's only love. Like, that's it. That's the essence. That's the identity. Anything and everything else in as activity or something that's springing out of that or trying to work in contradiction to it and resist it. But love is the unifying factor of the universe. That's why God is love. You hear me say all the time that the only thing that ever needs to be healed is just the sense of separation. That's true. But you know what heals the sense of separation? Unification, which is love. the unitary operating principle of the universe. That's what it is. Spirituality as identity, not activity. So often we think of our spirituality, we think about things to do. We think of practices like I'm spiritual when I'm meditating or when I'm praying. But if I'm at work, I'm not spiritual. Okay. If people are engaging in some kind of, community service or church service or whatnot, then we see them as spiritual. But if they're pissed off and they're rioting in the streets, in our minds, they're not spiritual. Okay? Spiritual doesn't come and go. It doesn't come and go. There's nothing that you can do to make you spiritual. It's like if you're alive, you're alive. There's nothing that you can do to make yourself alive. There are varying degrees of aliveness that you can experience or that you can express. But if you're here and you're breathing, you're alive. You can't make yourself more alive. You're alive. There's just a qualitative essence. It's not a quantitative thing. You can't make yourself more alive. You can just make your living experience higher. You can vibrate at higher frequencies. I always say all roads lead to God. All of them. You can find God at the mountaintop. You can find God when you hit the bottom. So whether you're in the gutter, whether you're at the top of the Himalayas, there's not more God up there on the mountaintop than there is down there when you hit the bottom. Just as much God. You'll get there. You'll find it one way or another. Some routes are just a little bit more scenic. I want to take the scenic route. I want to take the scenic route. I finally figured that out. That I used to think that God would rescue me. And I used to get mad. Why did I have to get all the way out there on a limb? Why did it have to feel like everything was falling apart before God came through? I remember getting this message that said, you're the one that keeps putting yourself out there on the limb. God said, I am the tree. So if you want to find me on a limb, fine. If you want to sit under the shade, chilling under my leaves, you can do that too. You can connect to my deep roots, but if you want to be out there on the limb, that's fine. But it's still me. The limb is still me. Because I am the tree. So what's our choice going to be? What's our choice going to be? It's like if this were rungs on a ladder and the mountaintop was say rung 10 and the gutter was rung number 1. God's everywhere. God's at 10, 9, 8, 7, 4, 3, 2. How low do you have to go before you decide that I'm more than this? How low do you have to go to heal that sense of separation? To say there's something in life that's for me and I deserve it. How low do you have to go? The phrase I use for myself right now is I say, my bottom's just higher. My bottom's just higher. I don't have to go so low anymore. Most of us are trying to figure out who we are. And in that effort to try to figure out who we are, we're doing it in a relative sense. As I was talking about in my opening remarks, where everything is comparative. High, low, long, short, fast, quick. These are not absolute things. They're relative. Like, if you're 4 feet tall, we would say, well, by our averages here, that would be short for a male if you're 30 years old. Okay. If you're 4 feet tall and you're 12 months old, ooh, that's tall. And you're male. It's the same 4 feet. It's the same 4 feet. Whether it's looked at as tall or short, all of that's relative. And too many of us are getting our sense of our identity from the outer relative. That's what we're doing. So when everything shifts and changes, then you have to shift and change with it. Don't keep trying to figure out who you are within the vast array of everything that's going on in the world. Figure out what you are. What you are. What you are. You are not, first and foremost, a human being with some non-material part of yourself that we call a soul. No, you are first and foremost a spiritual being, having a human experience inside a body. You are an incarnate, carne, flesh, meat. Something's in the flesh. Incarnation. Not just carnation, incarnation. There's an essence of you that's in the flesh. What is this essence? Too many of us, when we think incarnation, we're thinking of the outer expression. My personality. What's going on since I've been in this body? But what's in this body? What's in it? See, you're more than flesh and bones. You're more than that. You're more than activity. You are more than the sum total of everything you are, everything that you have done. You are greater than the sum total of everything that has been done to you. You are not a separate entity in the universe that life is happening to or at. You are space. You're a vibrational frequency. You're an energetic being. Life is happening through you. Life is happening as you. You are a verb. You're a verb. You're not a noun that stuff is happening to. You're a verb. A creative, energetic force. Imagine what your life would be like if you knew that. Imagine. Get there however you can. I'm going to share with you the tools that I use and how I use them as encouragement for you to find out what works for yourself. I remember getting the spirit letter years ago. Actually, before I was getting them in the forms of letters. My inner guides were saying to me, when you get in a conflict or when you observe a conflict, because I've spent many, many years as an organizational consultant specializing in cultural diversity, particularly cross-cultural conflict resolution. That's one of my fortes. That when you're in this conflict or when you're witnessing it, make everybody no more than 5 years old. Listen to what I'm saying. See the whole drama playing out as though everybody's 5, and dress them like 5-year-olds. Okay, not suits and ties or it. No, make everybody no more than 5 years old, and listen to what they're saying through that lens. So I tell you what happens. Most of the time, we're busy listening to the story. We're busy listening to the narrative. Who did what, how it happened, trying to sort through the differences of opinions and all of the rest of that. What this exercise helps me do is zero in on the narrator. Okay? The stories don't create themselves. Somebody's creating the story. Storytelling is one of the most powerful things in the world. Your whole life experience is based upon it. Your life experience is not the what that goes on, but your interpretation of it, the meaning that you give it, the story that you tell about it. Therapies, therapeutic modalities, from counseling to 12-step programs, and that's what they're doing, is they're helping you shift your narrative about what's gone on or happened. But the only way they can get you to shift your narrative is to change you, the narrator. The narrative won't shift if you stay that narrator. If you keep being that person, then that person's going to keep seeing through a certain lens, is going to keep conceptualizing things a certain kind of way, and will be unable to see anything differently. So to heal, to shift the story, to see things a new way, you have to shift. You have to shift. So this part of you that's telling the story, this narrator within you, the story that you're telling is directly related to who you think you are. The story that you're telling reflects not what's going on, but your sense of yourself and how you think you're being impacted by what's going on because of what you think you are, who you see yourself being within the scheme of things. So I give you an example. This idea of reducing everybody down to just being like little bitty kids, it really does work. And I encourage you to do it. And I encourage you to try it. So imagine for a moment that you're a parent and your kids are coming to you. Okay? And they're whining and they're crying about somebody broke this, somebody spilt that on my whatever, somebody hit me upside the head, like whatever it is, okay? And, your two kids, they're going back and forth and they're pleading with you and they're trying to get you to see things through their eyes and busy ratting out and tattling on the other one and, trying to get your sympathy and all of the rest of that. as a parent, you're kind of listening to the story, kind of, but you're not really getting all that caught up in the story. You're paying attention to the storyteller. Okay, you're not just paying attention to the narrative, but the narrator. Who's really in front of you right now? Is it the competitive brother? Is it the jealous sister? Is it the unworthy kid that's trying to get your approval and attention? Is it the bully who's too afraid to show vulnerability and is using offensive tactics as defensive measures? Just like, who's in front of you right now? Think about that for a minute. Like, just who's in front? That's where you're going to go. You're not even going to get into the weeds of all of the other little things that are going on. You're going to be addressing them. You're going to be trying to not only, quote unquote, resolve that conflict, but to shift them as the narrator. I remember growing up, there was something my parents used to tell me all the time. They used to say, remember, Deborah, if you keep walking around with a chip on your shoulder, there's always going to be somebody to knock it off. Okay. What that metaphor is, people don't do it that much physically anymore. But if you wanted to pick a fight with somebody, people would take a chip, like a little piece of wood, and put it on their shoulder. Just balance it on their shoulder. And dare somebody to come up close enough and knock it off the shoulder. That act of knocking it off the shoulder was the declaration, yes, I want to fight you. Okay. So putting the chip on the shoulder was actually an invitation to fight. Okay. And what they were saying is that if you keep putting out their invitations to fight, they're going to be somebody to fight. You can avoid some of your fights. I didn't physically fight, but I would verbally spar. That you don't have to do all of that if you shift yourself. Okay. So why was I doing a lot of that? Why was I doing it? A lot of it was just overcompensation. It was just overcompensation for all of the different messages that society was giving me about not being enough or not being worthy or why I couldn't have it or, blah, 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 blah. Because I didn't know. I suspected that I was okay. Inside of myself, I thought I was okay. But because I didn't see all of the validating things from the outside to confirm that, I kept doing things to try to get the confirmation from the outer world. Listen to what I'm saying. Whether it's a little kid in the sandbox box or some big global conflict, it's all the same thing. People's actions are not a matter of their goodness or their badness. It is a matter of their identity, how they see themselves. It's not a measure of goodness or badness. It's a measure of awareness. How much do they know that they are a spiritual being? That's all. So when we see dastardly things, evil things, what we're looking at is spiritual amnesia. People who don't know. Spiritual amnesia about themselves, spiritual amnesia about the people that they're hurting. Because if they knew them, they wouldn't do that. That's why dualism is so dangerous. When we start getting into dualism, we start othering. And the more that we other, our narrative dehumanizes them. We don't see them as full human beings, let alone spiritual beings. And the further away in our mind that we can push them from being deserving human beings, then the easier that it becomes for us to inflict injury and harm. That's how it works. And the way that we get rid of it is just the opposite. That's why restorative justice is so strong and popular. When you're able to actually get people together, the ones who inflicted harm, the ones who've been harmed, everybody, the people that they're related to, connected to, their collaborators, co-conspirators, whomever. And they listen. And they hear it all out there. They get a different shift. They get a different awareness. I watch this happen all the time. That they not only see the other person differently, they see themselves differently. I think about some of the programs that I've done here in town or some of the ones that I've done in prison, for example. And I remember being so shocked at one point at how shocked the guys were at the impact of burglary as we brought in people to tell their stories. And in their minds, they were the good guys. They weren't criminals like the other people that they were locked up with because they weren't hurting people. They were just taking stuff. So that was what was in their mind. And when they could see and hear, particularly the fear, and how these people couldn't feel safe anymore in their own homes, or the priceless things that were stolen. And they could feel this impact and the remorse, the regret. Because of the story that they were telling themselves. The narrative that they had based upon who they thought that they were. And if any of that had been connected to spirituality, they wouldn't have been engaged in that stuff at all. At all. If they understood their own spiritual power, their own spiritual worth, their inherent right to be cared for and whole, they wouldn't have been looking outside of themselves to try to get it, to try to steal somebody else's, because the way I'm going to get prosperous is take some of yours. It's not going to hurt you. Oh, you got an insurance company, it's going to pay for it. What difference does it make? No. Our spirituality is our identity. So I invite you, when you find your own self in circumstances and conditions where you appear to be at odds, don't just go in to hear each other's sides. There are at least two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. Go in with the truth. See, one of the things I know is that the angrier I am, the more pissed off I am, the less new the hurt is. It's old. Think about that in your life. The deeper it hurts, it's old. It's like it taps into something. And when you're mad, it's like it taps into something. And you're like, oh no, hell no, hell to the no. I'm not going through this again. This isn't happening. Whatever, this is my worst nightmare. Even if it hadn't happened before, it's something that I've played out and no, this can't be happening. This can't be going on. Why is this here? Who's hurt? What part of you is hurt? What is their story? Who are they? Is this a rejected you? Is this a protective you? Is this an overburdened you? Who is this you? And if we can dare to start to recalibrate at that moment and realize this is just some stuff. This is just my personality and my ego self replaying old tapes and drama. I'm more than this. Now, I'm really a spiritual being. Because when you put your spirituality in the mix, all the stuff shifts. Okay, you don't feel so stuck. You don't feel so disempowered. When we don't remember that we're spiritual beings, we're looking out at the landscape, we're judging by the appearances, and we don't have any hope. We don't have any hope. An acronym I use for hope is heart, open, possibility, and engagement. Keep your heart open. Stay in possibility consciousness and stay engaged. That's how you get hope. That's how you keep hope. But it's hard to find hope when you're in your stuff and that you believe your stuff and that's all that you can see. Rise above. Rise above. Dare to perceive yourself as something different. And even if you really don't believe it, just try it on. Just an exploration. How would this be different if I saw myself differently? Just how would I react differently? You can do that. That's how I've grown to have a greater sense of spiritual entitlement. I would ask myself things like, okay, there's this company holiday party that's happening. I'm with a partner. I've been with 6-7 years. Female. What would I do if I was straight? I'd take my partner. There's my answer. I'm taking my partner. Just possibilities, just not taking myself out of the game because of preconceived ideas. Saying, what would I do differently? I'm going to give you this scene, this little story. I haven't thought about this in years, but Spirit putting it in front of me, so I'm going to give it to you. Show you how this stuff works. And this was in a business environment. This was in a corporate environment. So years ago, when I was fresh out of graduate business school at UCLA, I got hired by Prudential. And originally, I was an investment manager on the real estate side, because that's what my graduate degree was in, urban land economics and real estate finance. So I was in the side of the house that was investing Prudential's pension fund monies into very large, what they call institutional grade properties, like skyscrapers and shopping malls and huge hotels and that kind of thing. So basically, you give your premiums, the company invests it, they make it grow and multiply so that when you retire and need it, you have some money. Okay, so I'm taking those pension fund monies and doing that. So originally I was in a group that was acquisition, sales, and mortgage lending. At the time, the interest rates were really, really high, and there wasn't a lot of mortgage lending going on. And I was doing really well, really well. Even in the middle of this lawsuit that I was doing, and I'll talk about that later, but I was very pleased that the company backed me. And they let me know that essentially I was a rising star. I got one of the earliest initial promotions. And they essentially said, you can write your ticket. I said, great. There's just one thing I ask. Don't put me under this one person. I don't want him as my supervisor. Well, I don't know, a couple of years later, there's a reorganization and there's a new mortgage company that's being created called Pru Capital. And what they did is they split those of us who were in acquisitions and sales into these two different groups. So I got selected to go to Pru Capital. And they put me under the one person I said I didn't want to be under. Oh, I was mad. I was so upset. I felt like, whew, I have been duped. This is wrong. How can you do this to me? So I'm in the Western Division and I go up to the head guy and I'm pleading my case. And he said to me something that would have pissed me off to the highest heaven if I had not concluded the same thing the night before. He said, "You're thinking about this now like a woman." And I took a deep breath and I knew where he was going. He said, "Women are very relational. They want to work with and be on a particular team." He said, "Guys just want to play the game. They don't care so much what team that they're on. They're willing to switch around. They just want to be in the game." And where he was going with this, and I can't surmise like the exact conversation, but what I got out of it, and I had figured out the night before, I was taking myself out of the game because a preconceived idea that I had about the relationships. So what he explained to me was this. He said what they did is they took the more seasoned people, like the 50s and 60-year-old folks who had really been around, who really knew the mortgage business. They used to call them turnip kickers because Prudential owned most of the farmland in the country. And that, these were people who really knew it. So what they did is they teamed up these hotshot 20, 30-year-olds with the seasoned 50, 60-year-olds so they would really learn the business. So the guy looks at me and he says, "You're a first draft pick in a new business. Do you really want to turn this down? Do you really want to do that? And that's when my identity had to switch. My identity had to switch. And something inside of me said, girl, snap out of it. God is trying to hook you up. This is outrageous. You be the first Black woman in their whole history. I was only one of a few, period, in the whole investment, but to ever have an opportunity like this, it was like snap out of it. Whatever stories I had going on in my head about being passed over or ignored or lied to, that little Deborah, that little old hurt Deborah, snap out of it. Snap out of it. How many gifts have you passed up? How many opportunities have you passed up? And you know what? Working under that guy was a healing of a lifetime. I learned so much compassion. So much compassion. And it changed me. An opportunity I would have passed up, not knowing my spiritual identity. But when I tapped into the fact that no supervisor can make me less than what I am, what am I worried about? What am I being so freaked out about here? How many people's support have you turned down? How many places have you not even ventured to move into or to even consider? Because you're already sure that you would be rejected or, not approved or accepted or whatever that is. Snap out of it. Snap out of it. The universe has great things in store. Our life is the story we tell ourselves, but we can't change the narrative without changing the narrator. You have to change. Stop trying to change the circumstances to make the picture different in your life. You be different in your life. You be different. You can't step into the same river twice. Not just because the river's flowing and shifting, because you're changing. You're not the same person from day to day to day. So who are you going to be? What are you going to be? Are you just going to be the byproduct of everybody else's projections about you? Or your own negative ego feedback about what you've done and what you haven't done, or what this one's done or hasn't done? Or are you going to stand tall? Listen to the inner thing that says, let me out of here. I just want to be, I want to play, I want to express, I want to live, I want to do everything in, through, and as you. Just stop telling me no. Dare to live the most sacred yes. And I promise you that there is bounty and goodness and joy and empowerment, relationships, wealth, things that you never even thought possible. But you won't know until you're willing to see your own self through the lens of the truth of your divinity. Just breathe that in. Breathe it in. Let's take it to prayer. Mother, Father, God. The Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, and everything. We're humble. We're grateful. We're humbled and we're grateful. We say thank you in this moment for blessings too numerous to count. We say thank you for needs being met from day to day. We say thank you for new beginnings, for constant restoration and rejuvenation. We say thank you for continuing to go away, even when we try to get in the way. I say thank you in this moment for lifting us up, opening our time blinded eye, helping us see possibilities. Thank you. We ask forgiveness in this moment. Forgiveness for any ways that we have blasphemed the divine. Negative things that we've said. Turning our back. Questioning. Doubting. Failing to uphold our end of the partnership. We ask for forgiveness. We ask forgiveness for our trespasses. As we forgive those who trespass against us. All the ways we just didn't know. Couldn't see. Even when we thought that we knew better, we really didn't. Because if we really knew, we wouldn't have done what we did. Just as we are, we come. Just as we are. Use us. Use the Holy Spirit. Mother, Father, God, divine, use us. We offer ourselves up. We're not trying to make the plan. We're just willing. We surrender all. Use us. Use our voice, our eyes, our ears, our arms, our feet, our heart, our mind. It's all yours anyway. Just give it back to you in partnership. There's only one of us here. You're not out there or in here. It's just there's just one of us. Thank you for all needs met. For coming through time and time again. Thank you for the financial sustenance, the stability, divine right residence, divine right employment, divine right transportation, divine right relationships, divine right health, justice, sustainability, the world on its right axis, according to your most perfect will. This is our prayer. We just get out of the way. And we allow that which is already perfect, whole, and complete. So it is.
And so it is.
And amen.
As usual, I write something, crystallizing the message that you just heard. I'm making this up right now. Well, I wrote while she was talking. Thank you so much for such a brilliant talk again. I'm really excited about trying this one out. It's kind of just in my head. Let's get it out. Living from the incarnation of spirit, living from the identity of good. You are a verb of energy and frequency, and the power of life is happening through you. Living from the incarnation of spirit, living from the identity of good. You are a verb of energy and frequency, and the power of life is happening through you. You can't make yourself more alive than you are. All roads lead to God. There's no more God on the mountaintop, and you'll find it no matter what road you're on. Or we can choose the scenic route to see the joy and the beauty. Or you can hang out on the limb or on the shade. See, God is the tree, living from the incarnation of spirit, living from the identity of good. You are a verb of energy and frequency, and the power of life is happening through you. How low do you have to go before you decide to be clear that the good that you are chasing is right here? Oh, remember that everyone has a 5-year-old inside. Underneath the story is where the essence hides, and the narrative shifts when the narrator sees that to heal we must sincerely believe that we are living from an incarnation of spirit, living from the identity of good. And we are verbs of energy and frequency, and the power of a life is happening through you. When we don't let the stuff of the ego in, living from the identity of good. When we don't let the stuff of the ego in, when we stay in hope and possibility, we can rise above all the stories of the pain of the personality. Stop trying to change the circumstance. Change yourself from the inside now. Listen to the inner power truth that you was joy. So come on and stand tall, stand tall, stand tall, and live from that knowing. When we're living from the incarnation of spirit, living from the identity of good. You are a verb of energy and frequency, and the power of life is happening through you. Yes, the power of life is happening through you. Oh, the love of life is happening as you are the power of life. Open up and open up and open up and know you are the incarnation of spirit. You are the incarnation of spirit. It was messy, but I liked it.
You never cease to amaze me. You did it again. That's a real talent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My
Annie.
pleasure.
Yes. And speaking of prayer, we're praying community. Praying community, please avail yourselves of our prayer services. You'll see the information scrolling on your screen right now. We have people who have been studying years to be able to hold the energetic space for you to do exactly what I'm talking about. They already know that you're a spiritual being. Regardless of how you see yourself, they already know the truth about this. You can ride the wave of their consciousness to help recalibrate you, like battery charges. And we're offering you here some jumper cables so you don't have to be running around on low battery. Every battery's got to run on its own, but you can be jumped or drained. Just saying. Choose the jumper. To find out what's going on at Inner Light, to commune with us and to participate in things that we have going on, both virtual and in person, we invite you to check us out on our calendar on our website. Next Sunday is the first Sunday. We invite you to join us in the afternoon if you're in the area at the 418 Project in downtown Santa Cruz, where the old River Street theaters used to be. We meet there from 3 to 5 p.m. We're on the West Coast. That's Pacific time, where there's fellowship and time to get together, and we sing, and prayers for world affairs and small groups. Let's just keep the commune in community. Lots of things going on. Be sure to check us out. I want to say thank you again, as always, and invite people to make contributions to the ministry. You'll see on your screen that there are ways in which you can do this. There's a QR code that's there. You can use your mobile device to take you straight to the donate page. Or you can go to the donate page directly from your computer. You'll see a button that's there. You'll have an opportunity to also indicate whether you would like this to be a recurring donation. What that means is that you put in an amount, and if you want it to be recurring, then on this day of the month, that particular amount will be deducted from whatever you've linked it up to. And it's a way of making sure that your support is always coming in without you having to think about it. Some people do complete tithing that way. Other people are giving in amounts that show their love. Whatever it is that you feel the most comfortable with, listen to your heart. Your heart will tell you what to do. And we are so incredibly grateful for those who continue to support the ministry so that we can continue on and do the things that we've been doing and to expand. Lots of good things ahead of us. And on that note, I want to remind you that if you are looking at this in real time, there are people who are in a Zoom watch party. They are ready to fellowship with you virtually. They're coming in from around the country. They're coming in from other countries. You can be in chat groups with each other. And it really is a great time. So whether you've never done it before, or whether you haven't been there for a while, or whether it's your first time, please avail yourself of that. And you'll see on our calendar that we also have these check-in times. We call them our coffee chats that you're able to do throughout the week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So you don't have to wait just till Sunday virtually to be able to connect with people. And I am going to give the last word here to Amy Steinberg. Please take us home.
I just really want to do a reprise of this jam that I just wrote, because it's in my head now, and it's going to be there for me till we meet again. And I hope that it gets stuck in your head too, whoever's watching. Living from the incarnation of spirit. Living from the incarnation of spirit, yeah. Living from the identity of good. See, you are a verb of energy and frequency, and the power of life is happening through you. Yeah. The power of life is happening through you. Do it again. Living from the incarnation of spirit, living from the identity are all verbs of energy and frequency, and the power of life is happening through you and me and everyone too. Yeah, the power of life is happening through you. The power of life is happening through you. Love is happening. Love is happening through you. Life is happening. Life is happening through you. Truth is happening. Truth is happening through me and you. The power of a life is happening through you. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Amy Steinberg. Such incredible creativity. And I want all of you to know that not only does she have obviously all this musical talent, but those paintings behind her, those are originals. She got talent coming out everywhere. Do you want to tell them a little bit about this? I think you sell them.
I would love to. Painting has been something that I've always done, but I've really gotten more into it during, since the pandemic. And I love to do commission work. I love to paint for people. I love to paint from my emotion. Right now, I'm working on a really cool piece called, I think it's called Happy Cloud Town or something, but I'll paint from my heart. This one here is available if anybody really loves it, or I kind of just flow with it and I post on my Facebook page. So if you like what you see and you'd like me to paint you something, it'd be my pleasure. You can always look me up on amysteinberg.net or houseofloveandlight.org, or on Facebook, friend me, or, you can find me somewhere. I'm available.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you for having me again.
As always, let us take this consciousness and multiply it. See you next week.